Welcome, my friends. This is Uí Néill Incorporated. It is early in the morning of the 20th of March, 1152. And just like the High King of Ireland, I have been drinking heavily. It knocks the edge off. It helps to clear the mind and steadies the hand. I'm fine. I can still lead a war. I'm fine. Uladh had a bad episode last episode. His mother drank herself to death. Before that, Cailleach, the king of Croatia, drank himself to death. I'm almost certain his father drank himself to death. His grandfather didn't, but his great-grandfather also drank himself to death. So it made perfect sense that once all that stress started to pile on Uladh, that he would turn to the drink. The last episode was absolute and utter anarchy. I know I've been using that word a lot. We should set up a Uí Néill bingo. Anytime I say anarchy, here's an interesting character. Whenever Iceland shows up, I think that's going to be the free square in the middle. If you've any suggestions for what else should go on the Uí Néill bingo card, put them in the comments below. But it was just pure chaos. I was not able to keep up with the pop-ups. Another one for the bingo card is whenever a war comes to an end and it says you're going to get 780 gold, and I just totally miss something that is obvious and right in front of my face, and then I'm like, why do I have 1,000 gold now? So yeah, we got 700 and something gold when we bought that war with England to an end. There were so many pop-ups, I could not follow what was going on. The question on everybody's mind, where the hell are all our knights? We saw a lot of knights disappearing in the last episode. I'm going to do a recap, which I'll put a timestamp in the chapters below, or whatever. If you want to skip it, if you've no interest, I'm going to do a bit of a recap. Where are the knights, the 14 knights that returned from the Crusades? Where are they now? We have a couple of widows in the court that we need to marry out. I'm going to sort that out. We have an alliance to bring in. So we can form an alliance with our brother-in-law, Gospatrick II, Count Gospatrick II, the son of Duke Gospatrick of Lothian. So I'm going to form that alliance and bring him into the war, because we might be seeing somebody else leaving the war shortly, or we might be seeing some alliances restructured. So I'm going to do all that in a kind of a recap, which you can skip in the timestamp below if you so wish, if you want to see us continue with the war against Mercia. On the 21st of June, 1145, 14 knights departed Ireland at the head of the Irish forces bound for the Holy Land, for the Crusade, which would collapse in chaos just under 2 years later on the 8th of June, 1147. Where are those 14 knights now? Well, here's somebody who was not on the Crusade. Aelfnath disappeared from our court at some stage. Our brother-in-law, the highest ranking knight that we had for a considerable period of time, just effed off to Bohemia. The last time we saw him was in the battle against Iceland, where I think he killed about 91, himself and his retinue killed 91 Icelandic troops. But yeah, since then he's just decided to leave the court, so he was not on the Crusade. So there's one interesting character accounted for. Of the 14 knights who departed, 12 of them returned with the Crusader trait. 2 of them did not. Here is one of the easier knights to find, Laura of Allach. Still in charge, he's still serving in the armies, so there is one individual accounted for. If we check our court for courtiers holding the Warrior of the Faith, or Crusader trait, we will find 5 individuals. Ferrant the Savage, our cannibal siege master. Moel Brazil Conon, our stepfather. Leon, Triple B, or BB Gun. And Filbert, who I think is the longest serving knight in the kingdom at this stage. And in the dungeons of the Duchess of Mercia is Ulgarg, another of our knights with the Crusader trait. So 1 is imprisoned, 5 are in our court, and 1 is a count in Alloc. That is 7 of the 14 knights accounted for. The other 7 are dead. September 1147 is when the battle for Gwynedd began. That ended fairly quickly. Then into the 2nd of May 1148 we declared war on Powys, and within just 2 weeks, on the 15th of May 1148, De Hybert declared war for its independence. On the 11th of December 1148, Scaloiga, who was our initial siege master, died of his wounds. On the 29th of August 1149, shortly after England declared war, Cal Oigru died of his wounds. He was. We got a pop-up that he was a commander that we should think about hiring. On the 31st of March 1150, Félimid Noranov was killed in battle. On the 29th of November 1150, our brother Gillicullum was killed in battle. On the 16th of March 1151, Corsena, the great rebel leader, longtime commander of our armies, died of his wounds. We saw him disappear from the command list, and command of the armies was then given over to Leinchuk. Into the 13th of October 1151, there are, I don't know, is it 2 or 3 or 4 wars going on at this stage. England has declared war for Mercia's claims on Powys. Mercia had originally declared war on Powys for their claims. Once we conquered Powys, Mercia then came into the war against us, so we were simultaneously fighting 2 separate wars for Mercia's claims. And I think we were still dealing with another war at that stage. I'm totally confused. But into the 17th of December 1151, we held the army back in, I think they're in Furlix. While the main force went in against Mercia, we came in too late. And in that battle, Brennand was killed. So at this point in time, 6 knights have either died in battle or died from their wounds, and especially after that last strategic catastrophe, where the army was held back on the instructions of the High King, broken mentally and physically by the loss of so many of the talented and well-trained knights of the kingdom, men who he had fought from Dublin to Jerusalem alongside, including the recent death of his son-in-law Brennand. On the 17th of December 1151, our commander, Leinchuk, flagellated himself to death. Leinchuk also did not have the Crusader trait. So Leinchuk and Laura didn't have that trait. And then of the other 12, 6 of them are still alive, 1 is in prison, and the remaining 6, less than 5 years after the end of the Crusade, are dead. So that gives us quite a lot of widows to marry out and to try and attract new knights to the kingdom. It also means that a lot of very low-ranking knights have now made it into the list. Our own son Cruhur, who I think has prowess of 6, is currently fighting. That's not great. So I'm going to start marrying out courtiers, female courtiers in matrilineal marriages to attract new knights to the kingdom. This is how we got Muel Brazil Conon day 1. And I think with the chaos and anarchy that we saw in the last episode, with the humiliations, the numerous humiliations that Amlib has suffered, he is going to begin to put his trust in a core group of militant-minded individuals, led by Muel Brazil Conon. And as effectively a soldier of fortune, Muel Brazil Conon is going to attempt to recruit more like-minded individuals to court, so we are going to marry our ex-wife, Anla, who was divorced in the last episode as we abandoned polygamy. So she has the gregarious trait. This character has the gregarious trait. So medium chance of children has the robust trait. Leinseach's family has suffered a tremendous amount of upheaval. Leinseach himself, of course, flagellated himself to death shortly after his wife was arrested for murdering a member of our family. We have already organised a marriage between Keir, the wife of Brennan, who was killed in battle, and our stepfather, Moel Brazil Conon, shortly after his wife, our mother, drank herself to death. Another member of House O'Rourke, which of course has the stain of questionable inheritance on basically everyone, but another member, Ban Mead, came of age recently. We're going to marry her out to a big giant of a man. So we've lost our giant brother-in-law. So we're going to try and recruit this guy. And again, this is maybe Moel Brazil Conon organising marriages for close members of his family. I think, actually, if we check. Yeah, so Moel Brazil Conon is also a Breton, just like this individual. Our poor lunatic ex-wife, Una Dunkeld, also divorced when we adopted polygamy. The sister of Queen Peggy. We're going to marry her off to a courtier of Captain Ezo of the Rhenish Band. Very high prowess, Franconian. I'm sure there's actually a few more in court, and I'll try and find them at some stage. Here is the wife of Cal Oigru. Now, she has left our court after her husband's death, so what we're going to do is we are going to blackmail her. And once that comes true, we're going to use that blackmail hook to call her back to the court and marry her out to another knight. And like I said, considering all the humiliation he suffered in the last episode, his wife, Fiatach, has taken a lover. His brother, Gillicullum, was killed in battle. He divorced his wife, married Gillicullum's wife. He has gotten lover's pox from her. Another brother, we found that his wife and her father are responsible for at least one of her two children. I imagine for both of the children. It has been humiliation after humiliation. Never mind what's gone on in the battlefield. I imagine that certain ambitious individuals at court are using this as an opportunity to take advantage. Moel Brazil Conon, a man who is loyal only to money and his legacy, no doubt is pushing himself forward as a successor to Leinseach, who was our personal champion, so we're going to appoint Brazil Conon to that position. And our champion will no doubt remind us of the promises that we made to Ferrant the Savage, the cannibal, that if he would travel to the Holy Land and fight and die in the name of Christendom, that he would be forgiven of his sins. Well, he didn't die, he did fight though. He's responsible for one of only two kills that the Kingdom of Ireland achieved on the Crusade. So we will indeed forgive him of his sins by appointing him as executioner to the Kingdom of Ireland. There seems to be some upheaval going on here in Lothian, which our brother-in-law, Gos Patrick, is not involved in. His sister and liege is under attack, but he's not involved in that war. Here's our poor sister. She's a leper. And we had an alliance for a long time, and it was a very important alliance, with Gospatrick II of Lothian. We blackmailed him. We found out a terrible, terrible secret about him. We blackmailed him, and he drank himself to death after we demanded some money off of him. So we're in a position to enter an alliance with Gospatrick, 650 troops. We're going to negotiate that, and we're going to call them in. At the end of the last episode, I said that Mercia was doing a good job, that it was taking control of a lot of the regions that it was fighting for. I was wrong. This is the region they're fighting for. So they've completed 2 sieges, and they're on the verge of completing another. And they haven't really gained any overwhelming war score. The most of it, 19%, actually comes from battles that they have won. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for those knights to come in. We've also sent out the Herald to find some knights. We're going to wait for those knights. That will hopefully let us gain a small bit of levies, reinforcements. We'll wait for Gospatrick to enter the war, and at that stage we should be in a much better position to take on Mercia. I don't think we're in any major threat at the moment. We're going to pretty much plant ourselves where we are, hopefully get some reinforcements, and just wait for a month or two. We can see there in Scotland that our brother-in-law has raised his forces and is marching them south. We're going to wait for him to arrive. We've had a good chunk of knights show up. The court is now totally unrecognisable, with Muel Brazil Conon bringing in all his friends and marrying them off to his in-laws. We've lost another siege, but it hasn't contributed a tremendous amount to the war score, which is actually dropping just by doing nothing, because of course Mercia doesn't control the war goal. So what we're going to do is we are going to spend some of the money that England so generously donated to us in the last episode when we brought that war to an end. What I want to do is I want to expand the pastoral lands, but we can't. There's something keeping us from expanding. So let's check what that is that's keeping us from going up to the next level. We don't have a keep, and that is what's keeping us from expand. Okay, so I would like to build a keep here, but we need to have battlements, and that's 7 years away at the moment in the innovations tree. So what we're going to do is, I think, small harbour to help with the, basically to keep the income coming in. When Cruhaor succeeds as king, he will of course have 1 county here in Ulster. He'll have at least 2 counties in Connacht. Our wife has 3. We'll see about dealing with our wife. Our ex-wife. We will upgrade this so we can keep the money coming in for our learned son, because he won't be going down the stewardship route. Speaking of our ex-wife, who is still master of the hunt, we might want to change that. Soulmate, is it? Yeah, soulmate. Yeah. What's this, so then? We were told in the last episode that our wife had taken a lover, Kilina, her antiquarian. And if we click on Kilina, I was thinking, I might do it yet, of inviting him to the court. We have a hook on him, because we know who his lover is. We know her very well. I was thinking of inviting him to the court, shoving him into the army to at least push our son out, or maybe even by having him in the court, we could concentrate on finding secrets here and finding if he is actually the father of any of our children. But look at this. Look at this. He completed an inspiration. Kilina has completed an inspiration during his lifetime. He forged a weapon for Fiatach. Ah, so he forged a weapon and he gave it to her. He gave our wife a weapon. Does anyone want to see the weapon he gave our wife? Would you like to see the weapon that Kilina gave our wife. Let's open the inventory. Killing a sword. That's what he gave our wife. I bet he did. And to make things even better, on Killena's big sword that he gave our wife is a tiny inscription. To my beloved, Amlib. So that's what he put in the sword while he was giving it to the wife. Yeah. Is it any wonder we're on the drink? Mercia is having a bit of trouble keeping all of its forces together. We saw, I think they number 8,000 in total. I don't think we're far off. We are seeing our brother-in-law's army making its way slowly but surely south. We're being called into a war. Look at this. Our daughter-in-law, Bridget. I don't think she's involved in this war. I'm not sure. My great fear is that Lothian is going to be dragged away, that our brother-in-law is going to turn his army around and march north. She has her, oh god, step-grandfather, so her stepmother's father, coming in on her side. We'll accept, but you're grand. You don't need us. Thankfully, we see that Lothian's forces are still moving south. We will take our armies, which I had kind of placed just in two separate areas, to let them recover a small bit faster. We'll merge them together. They are under the command of... So here's the Cumbrian band, mercenaries that we have hired. Aggressive attacker, go on so. And who are we going to hit first of all? We'll probably try to hit this army, because I imagine everyone's just going to make it in there, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. And off we go to hopefully bring the war against Mercia to an end. I was speaking about humiliation. This is one of the humiliating things that Amlib was faced with. In the last episode, Gillicullum killed in battle. We had just divorced our wife, and the easiest thing we found to do was to marry Gillicullum's widow to keep the Duchy of Aquitaine involved in the war. Suspicions were raised about her children with Gillicullum. And yeah, more suspicions are being raised about more of her children. Sive is not his daughter. I kinda don't want to know whose daughter she is. We will deal with this later. And we're seeing all of Mercia's forces wandering into the battle. We've actually gotten a bit of an advantage on them. Things look to be evening out. For a while there, they had a hefty chunk of troops more than us. Brazil Conon has wounded somebody. The war for a claim to the kingdom of Aquitaine, we've been defeated. That war was going well, or so I thought. I'm not entirely too sure what's happened there. I'm actually more shocked at this than anything that we've seen so far. We were holding off on going into that war, unless Aquitaine, their troops had stayed here with us, so be it. I am very surprised at that. That is a massive blow to us. We get a martial lifestyle perk. So we've gotten a perk and the wife's gotten a pox. As I slid between the sheets to join Finacht, I was horrified to find oozing blisters on her most private parts. Did I do this to her? So we've divorced her, but are we still lovers? I think there's a tremendous amount of humiliation on all accounts here. It was something I was thinking about. I spoke about that there in the last episode, was the network graph studies. My god, I'm an absolute riot at parties. I was thinking, would it be possible to trace the spread of something like Lover's Pox through CK3? There's a social network analysis challenge for someone, or for me, if I ever find the time. I am surprised that we're actually still visiting our wife. I'm going to say we cannot go on like this. So we lose some opinion with her. We're seeing so much happening. Is this our aunt or our grand-aunt? Poor Martha, who we used to take a ton of money off of from time to time. What we'd better do quickly is actually do something productive. We will get you guys down here, and we will stick Ferrant in charge of the siege. I think we've gotten a couple of siege engineers now, but Ferrant's a good guy. Ferrant's a good guy. I like Ferrant. He's got great taste, that Ferrant, because he's a cannibal. And here is Prince Louis, not King Louis II, Prince Louis II of Aquitaine. He has been deposed as the king. Here is his son, our son-in-law, Tuathla's husband. His forces have been absolutely shot apart. If he tries to retake Aquitaine, we will absolutely support him. This was one of the major alliances that we were depending on for a very long time. Now I think one of the major alliances that we are depending on is the Duchy of Aquitaine. Here is the new Duke. He succeeded his father just a couple of weeks ago when he killed him on the 4th of August 1152 in battle. His father, as we can see, pants on fire, incestuous. Speaking of incest, here is his daughter, the sister of the new Duke, Gillicullum's widow, our wife. Not sure who any of these belong to. So that causes a lot of problems for us, because I was planning on divorcing this woman. Amlib is going to focus on the martial stewardship tree. Speaking of which, we'd better sort this out. He's going to focus on the overseer traits. These ones, anyway. Maybe not mercenary, higher cost, we'll see, but hard rule, strict organizer, and serve the crown. I'm definitely going to get those 3. I don't know if we'll complete the entire tree. What we might do is we might come back here to fearful troops, men-at-arms, maintenance per dread. So we might come back in this direction for a brief period of time. We might go for intrigue, for even just to get intrigue and dread up. I'm not too sure we'd go down the torturer route, but I was thinking of going for restraint, embrace celibacy, and trying to keep the piety up. So there's actually a lot of, the only thing I didn't say was the diplomacy lifestyle tree, but definitely for now, with the likes of Muel Brazil Conon whispering in his ears about the need to show a strong front, we're going to try and increase dread and control growth. Highly likely one of the largest numbers of troops that we've ever managed to put together. 10,300 men went into that battle on our side. Muel Brazil Conon, 97 kills for him and his retinue. 37 prowess. Fair play to him. Here is, I don't know, is that his brother-in-law? No, that's Una Dunkel's husband. So his first day on the job. There's Leon, one of our Crusaders, Ansur, who I think is not Muel Brazil Conon's brother-in-law either. This guy is, surely. No, he's not even in our army. There are so many new knights at this stage. I don't even know who is and who isn't in my army. He's in the bodyguard of the Duke of Aquitaine. There's Ferrant. So, fairly big numbers coming in. Lots of people wounded. Nobody killed or anything like that, but undoubtedly one of the largest deployment of knights that we've ever seen. 38 knights deployed on our side, and some very, very big kill numbers by some of our new knights, so that was excellent work. All we're pretty much doing is just sieging down some areas, waiting for Mercia's forces to come back, and possibly we'll turn around and actually go into Mercia itself. They're heading up north and heading for the war goal. It's the best idea, but I think we should be in a position to finish off these 2 sieges and to head up. Broin, I am disappointed in you. I'm disappointed. I thought you were one of the only people with a bit of sense. Carrying on like this, with a member of your family as well. This is a rather bizarre corner of the family. Because if we look at who this person is, Taltu, so the name from which Tailteann comes from, so the Tailteann Games, the ancient Irish Olympics, a member of the Dál Fiatach. Here's her sisters, Etna, a member of the Dál Fiatach, and Finiacht, the Duchess of Connacht. So they all have the same mother. So there is Quirkte, a cousin, Mac Casrach, and then there is Earl Muenach. Oh, so that's actually her current husband. And then we have Imke of Connacht. So she's the mother of members of the Dál Fiatach. So I think Finiacht was a distant cousin of ours, which I didn't actually realise. But Broin is carrying on being a divil. I thought Mercia was going for the war goal. I don't think they even know what they're doing. Kent, we could have actually gotten in there and hit Kent's forces before they got up. But we'll knock off some of the war goal. And we will take our army and we will march right back up there. We've just gotten a pop-up that our cousin, Robertuk, has been killed in Croatia. So he is the son of Cailleach, the former king. Our armies have landed in somewhere. I think they've been caught by or not caught, but they were, they managed to hit a much smaller army. First of all, it would be, we're not going to be able to hit those guys, so we'll go in this direction. Derlay has died in our dungeons. That's a bit of a disappointment because I did plan executing her. We have some people in our dungeons and we do need to try to get them out before they die. I'd rather kill them before they die. Some random nobody drawing maps for people. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. We don't want to get stress, and it'll actually make us more vigilant for 5 years, plus 1 intrigue. We're seeing the Isle of Man becoming involved. I don't know if they've joined the war. Louis has left the war, and an alliance has been invalidated. Or that alliance has been invalidated. We're being told more things about the High Queen of Ireland. More of her children are bastards. This is totally unbelievable. Louis. Oh, Louis. He's been deposed. The new king of Aquitaine has deprived him of his land. He is irritated with us. And we cannot attempt to sway him. We'll give it a while. We'll give it a while. We'll let him cool down. And we'll see about inviting him to our court. Can we actually get his son to our court? No. Can we sway him? We could sway him. He doesn't actually have his father's claims. So that's what I'm interested in. Is getting his father to our court. Because, like I said, that alliance with Aquitaine was very important to us, and I would like to try and re-establish it again. I feel like I'm forgetting about something important. Oh, that's right, there's a major battle for the future of the kingdom going on. I totally forgot. Estivo? Not Estivo. Somebody is planning to kill one of our courtiers, the Voin, who is the only legitimate son of Leinchuk. Married him off to a random courtier with a fairly high martial and some martial traits. So I would like to get the O'Rourke family to continue. I think most of his children have been married off through matrilineal marriages, or most of his daughters, is Man in this war? Did Man come into this war? No, Man is in a different war that we've also forgotten about. Mercia's forces are regrouping. They're heading into Wales. I think we're going to continue with these two sieges in Mercia's territory itself. And we're going to bring one to an end fairly quickly. It's kind of surprising that they're not going to move up north. I know. Look, just... I know. Would you just write them all out at this stage? We've gotten 8 gold for taking Shropshire. We could very well send down that secondary army and have that attack, but what we're going to do is wait for the other siege to finish. You boys are hardly going in yourselves, are you? You are. Okay, that's brave. We've actually finished that siege. I was hoping to get the forces together. We might just... no, they're sieging down the area themselves. Fair play to you. We're being told that the Cumbrian band is thinking of heading back to Cumbria. We'd better extend that contract to keep those guys in the army. They maybe weren't entirely needed, but you know what? There's a war going on in Scotland, and it doesn't look to be going great at the moment. Some forces, I don't think we'll be able to hit them, but it would be fantastic if you guys would move south. Maybe somebody's going in. I don't believe that anybody in this dynasty actually belongs to this dynasty anymore. Elbrig and William. Again, just another knight that we hired. This woman, actually, we summoned her to our court. She is one of the sisters of our ex-wife slash cousin slash lover slash lover's pox incubator. Elbrig, strong, wise. Look, I have a war. They just got out in time. That's because we were asked to name the child. If they hadn't asked us to name the child. I saw the word seductive demons and I got distracted. Our ex-wife, Una. There is evidence that she may be participating in secret rituals which must be in order to commune with evil spirits. She surely even dances naked with seductive demons, the glittering light of the flames caressing their bodies as the... What a disgusting thought. This is a very detailed account you have given to us, Spymaster. So she's a witch. Practices witchcraft. I don't know how this is going to sit with Amlib's zealous trait. Our brother, Dinarthuk, was murdered by Cailleach Fineen. Speaking of witches, a witch that we hired at some stage. Is this Dinarthuk Bridget's father? This is an absolute disaster. Because I was planning on negotiating with his father-in-law, the King of Sweden, swaying him to bring in an alliance with 3,500 Cailleach Fineen in prison. Do we have a hook on her? We don't have a hook on her, but we're just going to take the risk. We're going to imprison her. We have crushed that army. We're sending in the bulk of the forces. If everybody will come with us, they are indeed. Cailleach Fineen managed to avoid capture and has fled to the countryside. She's in Fife. Well, this isn't going to be good for our paranoia, which I imagine is growing. Her husband, Liam, has abandoned his post as seneschal. We will appoint our ex-wife, Anla. The court position, or the court tutor position, has been vacant with a while due to our grandaunt, Martha's death. That messes up a lot of things. That messes up a lot of things. Our brother's death. I would hope that if these guys can make it in time... They're wandering in very slowly. We do have 4,000 troops wandering in. Brazil Conon has killed somebody. There's an artifact war. Torfrith, you absolute devil. I have no doubt it was Torfrith who is, or who at least was, recently reinstated as the heir. There he is. He's back as heir to the Kingdom of England. I have no doubt it was Torfrith. As Brassel Conon whispers in our ear, Torfrith whispers into the ear of Adric and convinced him to declare war for Mercia's claims on Ireland. Torfrith has, however, been knocked off of the list. If we go to Torfrith, if we go to his mother, if we go to her brother, the Jarl of Iceland, we will see that he has had one son with a member of the Godwin dynasty. So Torfrith is no longer in line to inherit Iceland, no longer, no doubt there are still strong alliances there. What artifact do we have that Torfrith could be going to war with us for? What possible artifact could we have? There's no need to rally the troops, they're already there. It is the Book of Anglo-Saxon Court Politics that was gifted to us by Torfrith's spymaster, a cousin of ours. And now Torfrith has decided that he will wage war against us. I think Torfrith doesn't give a damn about this book. I think he is doing this purely to cause trouble for the Kingdom of Ireland. Now that he knows we are weakened, now that he knows that we can't get that alliance with Sweden. Was Cailleach Fineen working in conjunction with Torfrith? She's gone to Fife. She hasn't gone to the English court, but maybe she has escaped to Fife in an attempt to get some way closer to Torfrith, or maybe she's going to travel down south from there. While we're here in the court at this absolutely distressing period of time, a courtier scorned, our absolutely insane ex-wife is angry that we gave a different ex-wife a job. So she's a lunatic. We think that she may cavort naked with demons. We will appoint her as our court jester. And with, if I am correct, there's Ealdman of Salisbury. There's our spymaster telling us about all the children of the Dál Fiatach that actually aren't of the Dál Fiatach. I don't see our champion there, probably because he's fighting in a war. That's the best place for him to be. There is Phelimid, Mac Ludmilla. So he is a son of our giant brother-in-law, Elfnot, who disappeared. So he's put on his uniform, but he hasn't been sent out to war yet. We will hold court. God help us all, we will hold court. So our spymaster, who was standing right beside us, has now kind of just awkwardly gone forward and kneeled down. They were able to kind of rush to the front of the queue because they were already there. They want the cupbearer position. We have 100 opinion with them. I don't think we need to give them the cupbearer position. However, they are our spymaster, and they are serving us well. I think no, I think you're unsuited for the position. I don't want to appoint anyone at the moment until we get the finances in order, and we might appoint somebody else just to spread the love. Two of my vassals are pushing one another and jostling to reach my throne first. Broin bows before me. Murder is wanton in the city streets throughout the Kingdom of Ireland. It's wanton. You should see Wales. Oh hell, you should see Wales. It would be civilizing if we instituted a ban on townspeople bearing arms, at least within the city limits, and Laura kicks him out of the way. Safety is each man learning to protect himself. Banning carry of weaponry will castrate the townspeople. So we can either have a weapons ban in cities, we can institute open carry, And we lose 20 stress because we are calm, or we could let them fight it out. And it's a 100% chance that Browan would get the trait wounded, and open carry would be permitted. I'm happy to go with weapons ban. Open carry will give plus 10 opinion, amongst plus 10 popular opinion. The weapons ban will give a 0.1 control growth per month. So that is what we are going to go with. We can see some of our courtiers. We can see our son Cruhurs, after handing over his weapon, the Jester, has her hands out. Our ex-wife, a claimant to the Kingdom of Scotland, showing that she has no weapons now that the open carry policy has been abandoned. One of our vassals from the Kingdom of Wales approaches me, scoffing loudly, like she often does. I've noticed that as well. And she wants to hold a fair for the common people of the different cultures of our two kingdoms. So we could... cultural acceptance between Welsh and Irish increases by 20%, and she gains 40 opinion of us. What is her opinion at the moment? Minus 12. We could do with pushing it up. And of course, I wasn't thinking on hybridizing any cultures. I think somebody asked about it in the comments about hybridizing with Welsh. I had no real intention, but now that we've ended up creating the Kingdom of Wales, it's something that I might look at. So we will hold a big festival, financed by England, celebrating both of our cultures. As the last petitioner departs, various courtiers follow them out to place their weapons in boxes that have been set up around the place where you can hand in your weapons before the deadline passes. Others remain talking amongst themselves about the recent proceedings and, no doubt, the course of the war and the pox spreading about the faces of these two. The ceremonial formality of the proceedings drops away entirely, and the hum and bustle of normal courtly life takes its place again. And of course, while all that was going on, there was a war, or a battle, that was coming to an end. I was about to say we would want to try and bring this war to an end fairly quickly. What we will do before we do that is we will see what forces, what allies we can bring into the war against Torfrith. And then we will bring that war to an end, because I don't want any of them to stand down. We're also in a position to ask the man himself for a chunk of money, which we will obviously do. And while we're over here, we will take one of our infrequent visits to the court of Croatia. There is an attempt to install Anya as the new Queen of Croatia. How the hell do we find Anya? Here is Kailach, who was king of Croatia. He was deposed by his brother, Moel Brazil. And here is Moel Brazil's daughter, Duchess Anya of Lower Bosnia. So she is married to Zvonimir, who, if I am correct, is leading the war. So he is attempting to install his wife as the Queen of Croatia. They are winning, but his forces have taken a hefty knock, and there's an independence war as well that Croatia is winning. So constant chaos, rulabula, going on over here. Chunks of Hungary in anarchy as well. I wonder how Elfnath is getting on up in Bohemia, the devil. Here's that last battle that seemed to be going on for a couple of hours, because we of course had a court in the middle of it. We done a ton of things in the middle of it. The Sheriff of Nottingham slain by Brassel Conon, who is, as always, topping the kill list. Absolutely fantastic numbers. We've caught in a good chunk of our allies, I think everyone. We will enforce our demands on Mercia. They'll pay us 345 gold. We're going to be back to nearly, once the money from the Pope comes in, we're nearly going to be back to where we were at the start of this episode. So that's one war brought to an end. I've called in my allies. I actually didn't wait for the alliances to kick in. But at the moment, how are we doing in this artifact claim war? We've 2,200 and they have 3,400. No doubt they are also bringing in allies. What we're going to do is, for the second time in God only knows how long, we're going to march our army up in this direction under the command of Ferrant. We will siege that area down and we will wait for our alliances to come in. Never you mind all that. We're going to send our army straight in against Turfrith. His allies have come into the war and we're going to hit him while he is still weak. We will keep our Spymaster. I think we will keep them in Dublin. No, we will put them on disrupt schemes. So we've come in against this army early. Mark of distinction as the renown of the dynasty grows. Familiarity with the glorious Dál Fiatach sigil spreads too. My family's device is now recognised in the regional circles of nobility, counted highly amongst the prominent Irish bloodlines, as it should be. So the Dál Fiatach dynasty banner has become a masterwork. Very nice. You can't have that either, you divil. The Liberty War has been invalidated. It looked like it was going well. I'm not sure what's happened. We're going to have to check that in a second. Duke Kane's son, who was also on the crusade, has been in our prison for a considerable period of time because I've been waiting to try and lift the sieges so that we could revoke the Duchy of de Hybert from him. I said at the start that I wasn't going to be revoking titles. I kind of meant I wasn't going to be revoking titles from the Irish. So we're going to revoke this. We're going to revoke the entire duchy. I don't really want to do that. I'd like to be able to leave him with some of his counties, we'll say. So we will revoke that. I don't think he has much of a choice. And can we now grant him, or do I have to release him first of all? I want to grant him a county. So we'll probably have to go the long way about it. We will recruit him. And this lad then is no good from what I can see, really. I think we're just going to gain a weak hook on you and negotiate your release. And to our vassal up here in Gwynedd, we seized Gwynedd from him for Kane's claims. We then revoked Gwynedd from Kane. Kane then rebelled against us. We've now revoked de Hybert from Kane's son. We're going to bestow the petty kingdom of Gwynedd onto Anwin, soon to be our albino son-in-law, married to our albino daughter, Eugenia. We will grant that title. So he now has the entire region. We have no counties in this region. His brother ruled here and might still do so. He does indeed. So we will be trying to control this region at some stage and return it to him. We're going to keep the territory down here, or we're going to keep control of the duchy. We're going to hand out one of the counties back to Kane's son. We'll keep the other two for ourselves, at least for now. But we will have some land here that will pass to our son Cronon when he becomes King of Wales on the death of the High King. We have to try and figure out what we're doing down here. Actually, another thing I need to do is raise some more forces. We're probably going to try and march in. Kent has come into the war again. Kent and Mercia have just been defeated in a war, and now Kent is allying with Wessex. Kent really hates us. Kent, what the hell did I do to you? We have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that we can't form an alliance with our grandson in Brittany, and it looks like he might be deposed. He's in a bit of trouble. Or is he? I think he has about 2,200 troops, and there's 1,200 coming up against him, so he might hold out on this. But we're not in a position to rebuild that alliance. We didn't get a tremendous amount of use from that alliance. So that's the bad news. There's more good and bad news. The good news is that Bridget is still in control of Kirkin. I'm not too sure what actually happened that brought that Liberty War to an end. So that's the good news. The bad news for her is that we're going to break that patrol. I don't think we're going to be in a position to try and re-establish Dál Fiatach control of Scotland after this. I'm kind of worried that the Pope might declare this marriage to be consanguineous. We have a tremendous amount of incest in the court at the moment, and it's freaking me out. We also need to get Crusader married to somebody with more stable alliances, or that can bring a more stable alliance, and possibly that might actually be to King Stephen. We might actually try and form an alliance with King Stephen and basically give up on the dream of Dál Fiatach rule in Scotland. Crusader has just divorced, or has broken off his betrothal to the 13-year-old Bridget. We could have organised a marriage to Bridget's 13-year-old stepmother, the sister of the King of Sweden. It wouldn't have given us a alliance, however. Emma de Montgomery, daughter of the Duchess of Orleans, or Orleans, back into forming alliances in France, as opposed to Aquitaine, France. Here is Henry II of the House of Normandy. Whatever dynasty we were forming alliances with there a while back has been deposed. We're going to send that alliance. We're talking about 2,500 troops. We'll send that alliance. We'll very quickly look at the title for the Kingdom of France, the title history. So here's the Carling dynasty. Here is Herbert, who drank himself to death in the midst of the war for Bar. Here are his sons. So here is his successor, and here is the guy that our eldest daughter, Ovluk, was betrothed to. That gave us this alliance, and it's a good thing that this marriage didn't go through, because, well, it wouldn't have been able to go through. Fair play to you, though. He's after getting the lover's box. Maybe this one came first, and this one happened after. So there you go. It's been a downhill slope for that man. Here is the deposed Duke of de Hybert. We will grant him back one of his titles. He has joined our court. I have my armies raised. Are we seeing a Kentish force heading northwards? There is our son's marriage, and that has gone true. So we're gonna try and hit them. They've realized they're in a bit of trouble. Faction has been created against us. Uh-oh. Will we get in time before they pull out of the region? We will indeed. So if we can keep them divided. I think we actually have less troops than them at the moment, but if we can just keep them divided. Northumbria, or North Riding I should say, is involved in this war as well. I think we're just going to try and move south. Seize a couple of regions. Wait for their armies to recover. I think if we just keep hitting their armies. I think if we keep winning battles, we could win this war. There you go. That's strategic genius for you. They're going into Wiltshire, so we're going to lose some troops. This is the actual... what would we call them? The main... Wessex army itself. We've gotten into a much better position. If we can hit them. There we go. There is Turfrith himself commanding. If somebody would only bring me their head, I will give them a county. Turfrith's head. Not their own head. Turfrith's head. How many thousands, how many tens of thousands have been killed in Wales and in southern England in what is closing in on a decade of continuous war? The Kingdom of England itself, but especially Mercia and Kent, are still weakened from their failed attempts to seize Wales. Turfrith has now gone off on a solo run to try and weaken the Kingdom of Ireland. He spotted that the High King was weak, pox-ridden, humiliated, and he was correct in that analysis. However, the kingdom is now effectively being propped up by a military cadre led by Moel Brassel Conon and Ferrant the Savage. They are glad to act as the powers behind the throne and take the benefits. And a weakened and humiliated Amlib sits on the throne, probably none the wiser of just how much power and authority he has lost since the failure of the Crusade and the loss of Scotland. For now, Amlib has little alternative but to rely on his military advisors, and they will be given free rein in the next episode to deal with the war against Wessex and Kent, hopefully bring it to an end, and then, and only then, we can start to think about rebuilding our alliances, stabilising our alliances, and possibly watching Amlib withdraw completely from public life, concentrate on building up the county of Ulster and some of the other regions and preparing to hand them on to a new generation. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Thank you for recounting the great achievements of our Crusader Knights, and I hope you will join me on the next one.